Well, summer is approaching and a lot of us will be going to the beach. Now, you might have been put off by last year's record number of shark attacks. Could this be worse? Michael Brown is a shark spotter for SURFWATCH Australia. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Kerry.
I mean, earlier this year we had 2 surfers mauled. It does seem as if we've got quite a few shark attacks. Are we just reading about it more, or is it increasing?
Well, I think the biggest problem is that there aren't more sharks out there, but with the massive numbers of bait fish that are coming into our coastal beaches, a lot of those sharks are simply coming in to feed. They're arriving at the beaches in a feeding mode, and I think that's where mistakes are being made. So we definitely do have a fairly major increase in the risk to swimmers this year.
So the sharks are everywhere, as they always have been. This is right from, you know, North Queensland right down the south coast of eastern Australia, as well as Western Australia.
Absolutely.
So you've got the big numbers of sharks that have always been there. So explain why there's more food and bait fish which they want to come and feed on.
Okay. Well, many of us would probably remember around about 3 or 4 years ago, around Christmas time, when the sea temperatures were very nice and warm. And what the big problem was is we have big eddies that spin off the coast over here in Sydney. As those eddies spin, they dredge up a lot of cold but nutrient-rich water, which they then dump onto our beaches. Now, over a 3 or 4 year period, that nutrient-rich water has fed all the small phytoplanktons, which then in turn go up and feed the smaller bait fish, working their way right up the line to the bigger bait fish like the Australian salmons and tunas, kingfish, that sort of thing. So what we're seeing at the moment is the actual size of the bait fish schools that are off our beaches have grown from a couple of thousand fish to tens of thousands of fish. And that really is the major factor drawing the sharks in.
And the sharks are coming in closer and closer to feed on it.
Absolutely.
We see aerial watches there. Do they work?
Well, they do, because I think one of the most important things you need to know to be able to stay safe on the beaches is where the bait fish are. If you take your family down to a beach and there are tens of thousands of bait fish under your feet, well, the chances are that there could be sharks in the area. By the same token, if you go down to a beach where there are no bait fish at all, the chances of running into a shark are minimal at best.
Would you let your kids swim at a beach where there are bait fish?
Not on your life.
At all?
Absolutely. Well, see, this is what the problem is. If all the bait fish are there, the sharks are probably in the area, but the worst thing is the sharks are in there in a feeding mode. So they're already aggressive, they're out to hunt, and unfortunately mistakes are going to be made.
What about the nets? We saw, you know, sadly a whale caught up, he was freed. Did the nets do anything?
Well,
how long and wide are the nets?
Okay, well, look, the nets are about 150 metres long. They don't go to the surface, nor do they go to the bottom. One of the biggest problems with the nets is that they catch so many other harmless creatures as well. I mean, every year we're killing dolphins, seals, 100-year-old turtles, and a lot of the bigger sharks are actually so powerful that they can release themselves from the nets anyway. So, I mean, as the Minister said the other day, they're a psychological barrier, not a physical barrier. But more than anything, they're very old technology, and I'd say that they would be minimally effective at best.
Minimally. So, as an expert, you'd go, like, get rid of the nets?
Well, look, I don't think that we can actually go and get rid of the nets now. I think there'd be a huge public outcry if we did that.
But that's psychological. But if they're not that efficient, why have them when the damage they're doing? But does the shark sort of swim close to the net? As you say, it's not at the top, it's not at the bottom. So they sense a net and divert themselves.
Well, I think the main idea of the net is to cull sharks over a period of time. I don't think anyone states that that having a net on the day that you're swimming is any sort of barrier for you whatsoever. I think, as I say, it's a culling procedure over time.
Can't the shark get under the net and actually trap himself on the inside?
It certainly can. And you realise that most sharks that are caught in the nets are actually caught on the inside. So they've already been to the beach and they're on their way back out when they do get hooked up.
They just didn't have lunch that day.
Well, they're looking for lunch, that's for sure.
Wetsuits. I was just talking to Ian Wallace, who is, you know, a great surfer. He goes out there most days. He's saying he's seeing more sharks at the moment. Wearing a wetsuit, is that good or bad, or is a coloured wetsuit a deterrent for a shark? Well,
you know, I think there's a lot of different theories on that, but I think one of the realities that people need to understand is that when a shark comes in and it's in a feeding mode, if it has a chance to attack one prey item that resembles a seal, or has to go and chase down 10, 15 other smaller prey items, it's going to go for the one hit. Now, surfers are particularly at risk because when they're laying on their surfboard with their big black legs hanging out the side and a shark comes underneath, it looks like a seal. Now, luckily enough for us, humans taste pretty bad. We're bony, we're cartilagey, and we haven't got much fat. So that's why most people survive shark attacks, because the shark will come up, have a taste, right, realise that it's something that's it's never tasted before. We don't taste particularly good, and it'll move on, which is why most people survive.
Great advice. So a coloured suit doesn't do anything.
No.
Michael, thank you very much. Valuable advice. So there's more, not more of them, they're just in closer fitting. We do appreciate your time.
That's my pleasure.